Welcome back, everyone. Spring and summer is a time for new growth and taking bold action together. So we hope these stories will inspire you to live boldly, take wise chances, and with our friends and family make a difference together. Today, we're continuing our stories of The American Story, 102 Tales from American History by Jennifer Armstrong and illustrated by Roger Roth. So lean in with the spirit of adventure, grab a friend, and let's enjoy the story together. 1987, Flight of the Condor. April sunlight threw sharp shadows on the mountainside, where dark green pinyon and silvery sage bush stood out against the brown rocks. Overhead, the very last wild California condor wheeled in tightening circles, eyeing the dead calf that lay on the ground. The great bird, a 7-year-old male, landed, studied the carcass, then hopped closer. Then there was a bang and a whoosh of ropes, and before the startled condor could lift himself into the air, a net landed over him. The scientists of the Condor recovery team rushed forward to put the bird securely into a carrier and take him away. Once the condor's ancestors had ruled the skies over the entire west coast, a giant of the air revered by the region's Miwok, Chumash, and Pomo Indians. The Yokute people believed that when the moon disappeared in eclipse, a condor was eating it. On enormous wings, the condor soared like a visitor from the spirit world, but with the settlement of California, Oregon, and Washington, condor lands were eaten up by towns and roads. Gold prospectors killed the birds to use their hollow quill feathers for stashing gold dust. Cattle ranchers shot and poisoned them. Pollution took its toll as well, and by the 1970s, there were fewer than 30 condors left. Already, many American birds had disappeared forever, and scientists refused to let the California condor, America's largest bird, follow the passenger pigeon, the gray oak, and the Carolina parakeet into extinction. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Audubon Society took eggs from nests so that chicks could be raised in zoos. They also captured many wild condors to breed in captivity. The goal was to increase the population and then reintroduce the birds into the wild. The condors, still living in their natural habitat, could act as role models for the new condors, and in time the species would climb back from the edge of extinction. The captive breeding program was going well, but the scientists in the field saw the number of wild condors plunge with frightening speed. The Fish and Wildlife Service decided to capture the last of the condors before any further harm befell them. But at that, the National Audubon Society balked. With no wild condors, how would young birds return to the wild learn if they had no experienced condors to imitate? But energized by fear of losing the few birds left, the Fish and Wildlife Service went forward, and the last condor was taken from the wild. For 5.5 years, no condor would cast a shadow over the cliffs and canyons of California. The fledglings that had been hatched and raised at the zoos were growing old enough to fend for themselves, however. The scientists in the breeding program have been careful to limit the birds' interaction with humans, using condor puppets. This is if you look it up, I've seen videos, very weird looking, but it works. Condor puppets to feed the chicks so that the condors would not learn to be dependent on people. In 1991, a female and a male were taken to a large pen high on the mountainside and allowed to get used to the outdoors for several months. Then, with scientists, reporters, and representatives from several Native American tribes standing by, the pen was opened and the birds flew free. The note: within 10 years of that first release, the population of wild condors had reached 28, with many birds still at the zoos being readied for life in the wild. Condors have been released in Arizona, extending their habitat and thereby increasing the species' chance for survival.